is a massive lack of knowledge on food and nutrition in our European citizens nowadays. And if we really want to help them, and if we really want to win in the end the fight against the growing problem of obesity, we need to inform our consumers, our citizens, about a healthy lifestyle, and that means about healthier eating, healthier diet.
Marketing is an industry activity. Do you feel there's a need to regulate the industry?
Yes, a little bit, but not really to regulate, but to ask the industry to not to mislead the consumer. I think that is the most important point.
What can you from the European Parliament do to make sure that the industry does not mislead consumers?
I think the one and only way to guarantee this is to have very strict and clear legislation. Unless we have that, there is legal uncertainty for the industry, for the producers, for the retailers, and this would not help anyone. So we should have a very, very clear legislation on that, and at the moment we are working on food labeling legislation.
There's a lot of legislation in place already. Are already requirements for food labeling to inform consumers? What is wrong with the existing system?
The most important mistake is that we have too much legislation. We want to pack it together in the sense of better regulation. But the question is whether this will be done by the new regulation on food labeling already, because we have additional legislation existing and this will remain. We have sectoral solutions and so on, so it will remain difficult for the whole food sector, but hopefully this new regulation on food labeling will help the sector a little bit, and of course will help the consumer to get better information.
You're talking about a new regulation system. A political agreement was reached on this new system. What are the main elements to that agreement?
The main elements are that we will have a mandatory nutrition box, back of pack. The Council decided that it doesn't want to have any labeling in front of pack mandatory. It is allowed, of course, on a voluntary basis. But the Parliament wanted to have a front-of-pack labeling of several nutrients and, the most important thing, the contents of energy. So additionally, Parliament wanted to have a front-of-pack labeling of food imitates, what the Council does not support. This should be written in the ingredients list. That is already mandatory, the Council says. And we have quite a lot of other details, origin labeling for meat, the question whether other products or main ingredients of products should be labeled with their origin in the future. There is still a question whether we should exempt at the whole alcoholic beverages. We will have a labeling of nano ingredients and so on.
So quite an extensive agreement, but still some core disagreements between the Council and the European Parliament. What do you think will happen when this comes to a second reading in the Parliament? There's a chance, of course, that this will be rejected.
Yeah, it will be a very difficult process until we reach the second reading, because the majority of Parliament insists on, example, this front-of-pack mandatory labeling, and there are several other points in which the Council does not follow Parliament. So it will be a very hard job for me as the Parliament's rapporteur on this dossier to find a solution that satisfies all. And at the moment I doubt whether this dossier will be finished in the second reading. I'm afraid that we are going to a conciliation procedure.
One of the difficulties also appears to be national legislation in Europe. I understand that the UK is very much in favour of a traffic light system. I understand also that you oppose these national systems, that you want the European regulation to be adopted. Where does this leave the UK system? Would that have to be overruled by the European system if that goes into force?
It's not just the UK, we have other member states that have other systems, the keyhole systems in the northern member states, in example. The Council proposed that these systems should be allowed further on as long as they are scientifically based. This could, of course, cause problems for the traffic light system because it's not scientifically based. But England says it is already, so we will see what will happen with that. In general, national labeling schemes are in contrary to the idea of the internal market and should not be allowed because it's a European legislation that should help the internal market and should not work against it.
We're talking about labeling a lot. Final question now. Do you also see other instruments possible at a European level outside labeling that could encourage consumers to have a healthier eating behavior?
What we really need are information and education campaigns, and those have to be done inside the member states, by the member states. The European level of politics can just support this exchange of best ideas.